Good evening, everybody, or good morning, or good afternoon, or whenever you get to watch this. Hello, and welcome to Sunday Nights with Endangered Stories. Still winter here, Canada. You're going to be seeing part one of my interview with Randy Davies. So Randy Davies connected with me through someone who we both knew or know. And it was an email sent to me, and in the email they said, I have a picture of myself as a baby in front of the Chateau St. Louis. Now, if you've been following the channel for a few years, I mentioned the Chateau St. Louis in my video about the Val Country Club that I did back in 2020, and then I reposted it again last year. That's the big pier that was out in Val Bay. So I've only seen, you know, more official pictures of this hotel. So the idea that somebody has a picture of this hotel in their private collection was absolutely fascinating. So I contacted Randy, and Randy agreed to do an interview, and he came to the studio. We did a great interview. He is incredibly entertaining. Some fantastic memories of growing up in Val Bay. He first moved to Val in 1940. I'm not going to give away his age. You'll figure it out as you're watching the video. And what I find remarkable for myself personally was his photo collection. So it's interesting when you go to meet someone for one reason, and then there's like 20 other things that you find absolutely fascinating, which are simply just gifts to the whole relationship that you build with someone. For example, you know, he lived on the Highway 20 before Highway 20 was put there. There's a couple of other nuggets in his personal pictures that I saw in the background that fascinated me, and I show that in this part of the story as well. Anyways, I won't say more than that. I've already taken up too much of the time. Here is my interview, part one, with Randy Davies here at Sunday Nights with Endangered Stories. Oh, and one last thing. Please click the like button and subscribe. It's something new that I'm saying in the videos now. I didn't used to say it before because I used to post a lot on Facebook. I'm posting all my videos exclusively on YouTube now, with the hopes that monetization happens, and I could start making $1 or $2 from these videos. So you can help me out by subscribing and liking, and of course sharing. Ring the bell. If you haven't heard this up before, I apologize. If you've heard it 1,000 times in the past already, I equally apologize. So subscribe, like, and click the bell. And now enjoy my interview with Randy Davies, part one.
Just before we start, if you could just say your name and your spelling and the years you, how many years you lived in Pointe Claire.
Okay, let me count.
You can start with the easy one first, your name.
Yeah.
Like.
Give me my wallet.
Yeah.
I think I wrote to myself lately.
Okay, so we've had a couple of calls.
Yeah.
Where you've sort of regurgitated the story a couple times, but let's do it one last time.
Okay.
Your family, you weren't born in what we call now the West Island, or the Lakeshore, as it was called at that time. Your family moved here.
That's
so
right.
Where was your family when you were born?
Okay, we lived in Montreal, and I was born in Montreal, but the year before I moved here, we lived in Verdun. And I don't remember that at all, but we moved here in 1940, and it was a place for holidays. But I know that my mother said we had a little house on Val Bay, where the 20 is now, and they upped and moved it. Then we rented on Lakeshore Road. I don't know if the address is the same.
What did your father do for a living?
He worked on the CN as a cook, as a chef.
Kidding.
Yeah.
So you had to be near the tracks. It was beneficial for you to be near the tracks. Yeah. Okay, so that explains Verdun, and that explains Valois.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if it's considered Valois. Oh, I guess it is still Vawa where you moved to. So why move? Why go west? Did you ever ask that question?
No, my mother just said we came here for a vacation and stayed. They liked it. So we moved to 60A Lakeshore Road, which is, I mean, it's so narrow, the road at that point. And you cross the road and you're at the beach, really close to everything, you know.
So you're saying that you came out here for a vacation,
Yeah.
which blows my mind because we're talking, you get in the car, you drive for 10 minutes and you're in vacation country from Verdun?
No, but they didn't come by car, came by train, I'm sure.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And okay, so you take the train out to Vawa.
Right.
You, I guess, spent however many days, and you rented a house on a spot where the 20 ended up
That's right,
being
yeah.
built.
Yeah.
And then, so that was a vacation spot. And then your family, I guess, decided it's not too far, it's close to the tracks, maybe we should just relocate.
Yeah, for my father to be easy, just hop on the train and he's on his way.
When you moved to 60A, was that a permanent residence for you guys?
Oh, yeah, for many years, from age 1 till about 12 or 13. Then we moved to Donegal for about a year or two. Then we bought a house on Prince Edward.
Okay, so the house on Lakeshore, was that a four-season house?
No, not really.
Not even that?
No. It was a flat downstairs and one upstairs. We were above. And it was heated by stoves. Yeah, I don't remember being cold, actually, but I remember the frost coming through the outlets, the electrical outlets. And I thought, this is weird, you know. I'm going to connect the Christmas lights into that. I'm going to blow up.
And it was like that until you moved out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was never any insulation?
No, nothing put in there. I think the owner wanted to occupy it. The owner was a brother of the man who lived next door, Mr. de Bellefeuille, and Jacques. He wanted the top floor, so he said we couldn't stay there, so we moved to Donegal temporarily, right facing the station. It's funny, because in the 50s there was a big accident, a train accident. My father was in it, in Valois.
I did a whole video
and I
about
took pictures
this.
with my little hockey brown eye, little plastic camera. And I thought, I'm right there, I might as well take pictures, you know. I was asleep on the front porch because there were two or four flats. We had the lower right-hand side. There was one on the lower left and two above. There was the post office, our building, and a pharmacy on the corner.
Right, Valid Drugstore.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were just west of the drugstore building.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. You were sleeping on the front porch.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And you heard the crash.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I ran for my hockey brown eye, and I thought I'll get pictures. And my father was on the train. So he got off. He said, I'm home early. I said,
I'm
okay,
home early.
Forcibly, you know. Oh, God.
I'm home early.
Oh, dear.
Oh, and he was okay?
Yeah, he was fine. He was fine.
Is this something that he would ever bring up in later years, that incident? Or
No, we never
was it just
spoke
another
about
train crash that happened on the job?
I don't think he was involved in any others or caused any others.
Did he find it convenient at all that it would crash right in front of his house?
He didn't say. He didn't spend much time at home anyway, so.
On Lakeshore Road, you said that the road really narrowed out where your house was?
Oh, yeah. Talk about the bay being close by. The street was very narrow. I think it must still be. I think it might erode at one point, thinking, you know, they're going to move it in. The sidewalk will be at our front door, you know.
Maybe because just before you, it was wider because of, you know, the country club was there. But then, I don't know why, because the
hotel.
Chateau St. Louis wasn't too far, so they would have needed a bit of a road. So when your family moved into Lakeshore, I guess it was already torn down. It's hard to tell exactly.
Oh, what, the hotel?
Yeah.
No, it's there. I've got a picture of me in front of it.
And you think that's when you were living on Lakeshore?
On Lakeshore Road, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so tell me about living, because this is like beachfront property, you know?
Yeah.
It's a very unique thing for the lakeshore.
I mean, cross the street and I'm in the water, you know. They used to build funny sort of verandas, street level, with a staircase to the side, and underneath was a place to store your boats. We had a rowboat. But there's an odd picture of me in a funny little pedal boat, and I'm just wondering where that came from. Maybe that belonged to the hotel.
Leftovers.
Yeah, right.
Well, because again, the hotel is probably not in use anymore.
No, I'm sure not.
I don't think it really came out of the Depression. I think they tried, but I don't think the people were there to really come in, and things changed, you know?
Yeah.
It was more pre-World War II that it was really hustle bustle.
Yeah.
So right across the street, was it still beachfront on the bay?
Oh yeah, there was a small beach, but it was pebbles, it was stones. I couldn't understand, but knowing there used to be this pavilion on Valois Bay, all the bottles that broke, a lot of them washed up on the shore. And I remember my mother insisted I'd wear running shoes to go in the water because I'd cut my feet on glass, you know, and I couldn't understand where that came from, bottles.
So, do you remember seeing it, or was it still probably
No,
not?
no.
But were the stilts still there,
No,
or any
no,
remnants of it at all?
No, I never knew it existed.
Really?
Didn't.
Because I've spoken to people, and they said at some points in the year they can still see some of the cement
Oh, I bet. Yeah,
footings of it. But how long? Do you remember it just being for a short while that you would use the bay and the water before it started to get all pooey?
Oh, for the longest time, it seemed to be just a short time where I wasn't allowed to use it. Maybe a year or two, not more than that.
And then it was cut off.
They forbade anybody from going in the water at all
Why?
because of polio.
Do you remember roughly when that became a thing?
I must have been 10. I was born in 39, so
late. I think it was maybe 49, 48,
yeah, 48, 49. Much to my chagrin, my God.
Yeah.
I used to live on the water. I'd never want to go in.
And it was always the bay.
Always the bay. My mother used to bring my lunch down to the pier, and it was like, you know, you've got to come in for supper. You know, and do I have to? And at the end of the afternoon, she said, if you don't come in, you're not going to get this, or you won't be able to go to the movies, which was a big thing for me. Pointe Claire cinema, you know. Mm-hmm. And in those days, you can go at any age. You know?
For someone to say I lived in Valois and I would wake up in the morning and go to the beach. This is
Just
why we call
across
the
the
series
street.
Endangered Stories.
Across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so was it filled with kids? What was the demographics?
No.
Population?
Each place had its own little kiosk, if you want, to get down to the beach. We had one. The de Bellefeuilles had one. And I think we shared ours with the family next door, les Davies, and they used to come down the stairs as well, and maybe they stored their boat as well. We just had a rowboat.
So you would stay you had a little area?
Yeah, a little.
And it was owned by the owner of the house?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, so they owned that little patch right in front
That's right, yeah.
So their property line would have gone
right to the water.
Lakeshore, right to the water there.
Yeah.
Wow. So there weren't any public or anywhere along
Not
the
that
bay
I know of, no.
You remember that was a bit more...
There could have been one
public?
off Valois Bay.
Yeah.
What is that called now?
Valois Bay.
It's still Valois Bay?
Yeah. Well, it's because it's interesting, right? Because now, let's say my generation and younger, I'm born in 79.
Mm-hmm.
For us, these streets below the tracks have never been connected to the ones above the tracks.
Okay.
Right? There's always been...
That's right, yeah.
The 20 and the tracks have always been the great divider between north and south, except for the train tunnels. But that's why I found it interesting to say, why is there a Valois Bay up here and they continued it down here?
Mm-hmm.
It's because it was all connected at one time.
Like above the tracks, it's called what?
Valois Bay.
Oh, yeah?
Valois Bay Avenue.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Valois Bay Avenue, and Valois Bay Avenue just went right down to Lakeshore.
Okay.
So when they closed off the level crossing, and then eventually, you know, the highway was built, bigger. They just kept this little bit south of the tracks, Val Bay.
Okay.
So it's just like I don't know, like
2
200
houses.
yards.
What I remember mostly about Val Bay was a small store, and I called her Madame Valois. It was a candy store, like a mom and pop place, and they had Mellow Roll ice cream cones and candies, and I used to go in there, and across the street was a hardware store. I don't know who owned it. And they used to bring in a truck once in a while that sold French fries and hot dogs. I'd go ballistic. French fries, and they were so good. There was nothing that compared to those. You know?
So this is on the Lakeshore and Val Bay Avenue?
Yeah, right on Val Bay, yeah. There were 2 entrances, one on Val Bay and one on the Lakeshore.
If I mentioned names of stores, would you remember maybe? McCoy or the Blue Moon?
Oh, the Blue Moon, yes.
You remember the Blue Moon?
Yeah. I remember, what was it, the Green Hornet. What I remember is La Violette's, the pharmacy, the picture of me in front of the pharmacy, which oddly enough had a door in the corner, which I found weird, you know. And above was the...
It's a bad use of space.
That's right, yeah. You know,
what else are you going to
weird.
put in the corners, you know? It's...
A door. You know. And up above was the dentist. And I remember with the tooth he fixed. It was weird.
So when you lived on Donegal, let's say the focal point of Valois, where you would go for, let's say, a hot dog or get a candy or something like that, was that still on the lakeshore, or were
Still
things
on the
starting
lakeshore.
to come up to Donegal?
When Val Gardens started to be built, we opened up that area, so we used to go. I remember using McDermott's a lot, because they had the candies and stuff in there too. But
They had the diner.
yeah. And they had like stores up above the pharmacy, but that area I knew so well because of where I worked at the Atlantic and Pacific A&P store.
Oh, you worked at the A&P
Yeah,
store.
yeah. I started off as a wrapper, then I was in charge of the dairy department. Big hot stuff. And
What do you mean?
I thought it was so wonderful. Huge barrels of cheese cut by a wire, you know.
Oh, stop it. You're going to get her to fall off her chair.
Oh, yeah. The cheddar was wonderful. Then I used to partition it off in smaller pieces, wrap it up and seal it off with a little ironing thing, weigh it, and then price it.
So this was your first job?
Yeah.
Okay, so what propelled you to the need to get a job?
I wanted extra money because I loved going to New York to see shows.
At what age?
16, 15, 14.
I
used to-
You take the train down to the city?
I take the bus to the city, and there used to be on Dorchester by Stanley a bus area. Take the bus to New York.
So you take the provincial bus down to Dorchester and
Yeah,
Stanley, and then
yes.
they would have a one-stop
To New York.
to New York.
And you'd stop at Syracuse, I think, an all-night diner, and have food there, and then straight to New York.
At 15, 16?
Yeah. I was doing this in high school, too.
I know, but you're a small town boy here in Valois, and you have these
I had to
ideas
see
of-
these shows.
I mean, you were studying step dance, you know.
Well, I was part of a group called Mrs. Blackwood's Dancing Dolls. I've got pictures.
Oh, that's right,
and
because...
At the wonderful age of 11 or 12, in my little fancy writing, I put Randy and his friend Sandra so-and-so. And I've got their names down.
That's right now. Okay, but I think the reason why I'm confused is because we jumped over a few years. We went from you as a young boy on Lakeshore, and now you're working and apparently a man going to New York City.
But at one point, my father, I think, tried to buy my love. He bought me an old wreck of a car that finally died on us, and he drove me into the place, I forget the name of the place, and bought me a convertible, a white Pontiac convertible with black interior.
When you were in high school?
Yeah, I was 16. He bought me that, and I used to drive my friends to New York. We'd drive off in my convertible. And my friends would say, "You've got a convertible?" I said, "Yeah." So drive with the top down, arrive in New York like lobsters, you know, red faces, you know, because, open air.
But did you see any of the? This is before the beat scene was big.
Oh my God!
Or
yeah.
was it there? Was it happening yet?
Yeah, the years
very
right
jazz,
after, right after South Pacific, King and I.
Mm-hmm.
The first show I ever saw was a musical called Fanny.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did I see? Pajama Game. Used to stay in a hotel nearby. It must have been a flea trap called the Chesterfield Hotel. Or at the YMCA.
At 16.
16,
But
yeah.
is this because at that time kids were older at a much younger age?
Possibly,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean by that?
Yeah, yeah.
Like now there's, you know, you're still in school by your mid-20s. You know, 70 years ago, 60 years ago, people would have had their houses and been married at that point, you know? But it just blows my mind. So you're going down to New York City when you're not even finished high school.
That's right.
Okay, so that was part one. I'm still eating. That was part one. He was as entertaining live as he was in the video. I'm glad that you made it this far. I know it's hard for people to stick with one video now for more than 5 minutes. So I am truly grateful and honored that you're still here watching. This was part one. Part two, I'm not going to post next Sunday. Next Sunday is another special interview that I'll be releasing. I'm going to be posting part two Tuesday night. So stay tuned and have a great evening or rest of the day. Ciao.